My name is Nick. I lead BD for DapDap. DapDap is your next-gen consumer application to explore EVM networks and Ethereum L2s. We're essentially simplifying this on-chain experience such that you can come to one platform to navigate all of these DeFi applications in one place. So I want to start it off with a question with who here uses email? Obviously, everyone's hands should be going up. And the reason why I'm asking this is because I think it's something that's super overlooked in terms of a technology standard that has truly revolutionized the way we communicate online. And so one of the questions I want to ask is, have you ever thought about how email works? And ultimately, it's like these three core protocols called POP, IMAP, SMTP, which is like Smart Mail Transfer Protocol, which have been around for like 40 years. And so the premise here is you use email daily, but you don't think about how it works. You just use the email client, Gmail, Hotmail, whatever it may be, without really realizing that it's just these three protocols that power how email works. And so what I really want to drive home here is basically you're not really thinking about using the underlying protocol, and you're using the application or the user interface, which is that email client. And so now transitioning to crypto and obviously the Web3 landscape, I think currently we're suffering from three core pillars of I would say, detrimental infrastructure per se, or detrimental catalysts, which are there's a large infrastructure bloat, there's limited user attention, and ultimately there's a bad user experience on chain. Right? And so diving into this infrastructure bloat, there's basically more infrastructure in the space rather than usable applications, right? And so this FAT protocol thesis is, and combined with Ebola, which is Ethereum bags over logical affliction, which basically means that tier one VCs like Dragonfly or others basically have to deploy their LP's capital in a certain amount of time, say 2-3 years. And a majority of value accrues at this infrastructure layer because that's where they can basically make the most money. And so this FAT protocol thesis really just wants to kind of dive into how most applications that are built in today's landscape are largely infrastructure rather than usable applications, because most VCs can then make money and obviously raise market caps and then therefore exit their bags, right? And then fundamentally, it's a very fragmented landscape due to this. In the last year, sorry, just the slide wasn't touched up, but in the last year, we've seen probably about 100 rollups come to the space. There's a bunch that are obviously deployed on Ethereum, but now more and more are coming to other tech stacks as well. And so with advancements like Caldera, which are rollups as a service, you've seen that more and more VCs may be investing into rollups that do specific things, whether it's gaming, SocialFi, or other general purpose EVM networks. And so ultimately, there's a lot of infrastructure on chain, and there's not enough tangible consumer applications that are improving this user experience. And so touching on this bad and complicated user experience, I would honestly argue that interoperability is pretty close to zero. I think ultimately, if you're a person on chain, you're someone who likes to use one network or maybe a couple, and then you get really used to the set of dApps because that's what you may do. You may LP to certain applications, you're going to swap on this DEX, you're going to bridge with this bridge, and ultimately you're kind of siloed within this, right? There's not really been a real reason for users to play on-chain games because there's not been a really good game, right? So there's really too many steps that a user has to take to then even get into using certain dApps in the first place. And that's ultimately this infrastructure problem and not enough people that are really building to simplify this on-chain experience. And so touching on this as well, there's a lot of users that may be coming into the space that are less tech savvy, right? You have a lot of people that simply want to swap or bridge or stake and LP into certain pools and are more DeFi advanced, but other people who just may want to purchase meme coins or purchase NFTs ultimately don't really have that much attention. There's too many applications, there's too many layer 2s and layer 1s, and there's ultimately too many things in the space for you to understand what you should be doing, hence why your attention is super diluted, right? And so with this, it's like, how can we solve these problems to make it easier for people to navigate on-chain and make it easier for them to understand what they can do and what they should do? And so this is the current state of the market. There's fundamentally about 4,000 applications, about 1,000 of them are Aave, Compound, and Uniswap forks, and there's not much innovation in terms of applications that are really pioneering different tech standards per se. And so driving this home, right, it's like if we don't make infrastructure invisible the same way email clients do that for you, then we'll never really reach mainstream. Because you shouldn't be thinking about how I use and interact with a smart contract. You should just be using the application itself. And so that's what we're really trying to do here at DapDap. We have all of these applications that are within this platform, and you're just using the dApps. You're not thinking about the underlying smart contract that you're using. And so there's multiple ways to go about this. Of course, we're doing sort of front-end abstraction. There's obviously account abstraction that's coming, gas abstraction, bridge abstraction, leading to this ultimate thesis of chain abstraction. And so all these things tying together, right, that's on the tech side of things, but there's not enough innovation on this idea of shortening the amount of steps as well, which I think is super important. Because like if a user wants to play a game that's a I don't know, some sort of game that they want to then perform some actions within, they should just be having to swap and click on an action or that button and not necessarily think about interacting with that smart contract. So the idea is like, can we take away these protocols and the smart contracts and take away that tech such that the actions that they're doing are just interacting with those smart contracts and not actually interacting at the tech level per se. And so driving home, front ends are not smart contracts. And I think this is really the key point here. And this is what we're leveraging at DapDap to make this platform feasible. Now, I just want to touch on the consumer apps in the space too. Like I was mentioning, there's about 4,000 DeFi apps, and there's probably like 20, 30 consumer-facing applications, which frankly aren't many. You see ones that are heavily used today, say Pump.Fun for meme coins or OpenSea to buy NFTs. But ultimately, there's not really been one consumer-facing application that has garnered this much traction and has onboarded thousands of users into the space. Like Sweatcoin is doing a great job, but still that's a niche, right? There's not really a general purpose application that has brought DeFi to the forefront. And so what we're doing at DapDap is really creating a simple, unified interface application with which you can come into and essentially, if you want to use these networks, go ahead. We can help you swap, bridge in, stake, do all of your DeFi actions in one place because you're already using these applications from the front ends we've built. And I'll go into actually how that looks like in a few slides too. So today we have about 17 chains live and over 200 applications. And I truly do think that we're one of the best DeFi applications out there because we have actually aggregated all of these apps within one platform, and you're able to do everything you want to do literally in this one place. Swap, lend, borrow, bridge, stake, LP, whatever it may be. You're just using our front end and interacting with those dApps that you already use on a daily basis. And so let's talk a little bit about traction too. We launched about 6-7 months ago. We have about 150,000 registered users, cumulative volume of about 200 million too, and I think this untapped market potential is huge. I think a lot of people don't also really realize how many DeFi users there are in the space. There's probably about 1 to 2 million daily, weekly active users that are actually using DeFi on-chain, but as a whole, we think of it at about 10 million, right? There's about 10 million users in the space that are actually actively participating and or looking at using DeFi on-chain on a monthly to quarterly basis, right? So this market is huge, right? And there's not many applications really trying to aggregate this experience into one place and solve this need for all these users. And so, welcome to DapDap, your next-gen DeFi consumer app. And so, we did a large push from V1 to V2. This is the homepage that you're brought into as you search up dapdap.net. And basically, you're prompted with, obviously, all these different chains, right? And the idea is, like, if you're a person that already has assets on different chains, you can click on the chain you want to use, of course, and you'll be prompted with, let's say, this little widget where it shows you already assets in your wallet and assets staked across different DeFi protocols. So let's say you're someone coming to DapDap for the first time from Blast. You'll see this, you'll click on it, and you'll be like, okay, cool. I understand that I already have like 50K staked across Thruster, Thruster or other dApps that are available on Base. And that makes it super easy for you to understand, okay, these are my assets there. And so diving deep, we prompt you to do 3 different things. And this all-in-one page is my favorite one, because basically what we're doing here is, within this network of all those 17 chains you saw, these are the main things we want users to be doing, and the main things that users are already doing. You're bridging to a chain, you're swapping on a chain, and you're likely lending, right, between money markets or depositing liquidity. And so what we're doing here is you can imagine that these are the 3 core primitives, but there could be vaults, there could be perps, there could be launch pads too. There are other aspects that are DeFi primitives available on each chain, and so over time, we'll consolidate them into this one interface, right? And so clicking on, say, bridge, right? You're prompted with this super bridge, which is our bridge aggregator, which is aggregating aggregators. And so within this, we pretty much pull Leafy, Jumper, Router, Axlar, Stargate, all of these core bridges that are already doing their job, and we're just packaging it into this one seamless experience that's already on DapDap. And then again, you can sort between cost and speed, and it'll show you, the best available bridge routes from all of these bridge partners that we have integrated. And then secondly, same for the DEX aggregator, which is SuperSwap. Again, we're aggregating DEX aggregators so that within DapDap, you kind of have this seamless packaged experience. Instead of you going to 1 inch to then swap on 1 inch, you can do it on DapDap and then go ahead and use the other dApps that you may want to use already. Now I'm just diving deeper into the lending page. This is what it would look like for Arbitrum. We have about 6 applications integrated here: Radiant, Cream, FIDA, Granary, could be Aave, Compound. You can see that you're essentially just using our front end to access Radiant's lending markets and money markets. So you can deposit and borrow as you see fit within our front end, ultimately making this experience just a bit more packaged and a bit more catered towards the user instead of going to all these different DeFi sites. Yeah, and this is what it would look like to supply and borrow. And then you can see your positions as well, if you did have any, of course. And so within one of the tabs, obviously it says to go and explore chains and networks, and within this you can scroll through and see all of the available networks we support. Clicking on any one of them allows you to go a bit deeper into the network and see the dApps that are available on DapDap at the moment. Same goes for exploring the dApps that we have available. Clicking on any one of these redirects you to the front end that we have built. And then this is a super cool feature that I love about DapDap. We basically built a better version of DBank, in my opinion. But we support about 5-6 chains at the moment out of the 17, where within this you can see assets in your wallet, assets staked across different DeFi protocols, and then also an execution record. And that leverage, or on the first page, the home page that you saw with which Scroll had popped up, or Blast had popped up with the asset balances, we're leveraging this product that we had built, which is on-chain data indexing. And so let's talk a little bit about what we're doing today. Obviously, DapDap is our core product, but we've been chatting with so many chains and so many applications that are maybe underserving some of the new products that they're releasing. And so we're coming in to be like, hey, can we be a white label infra partner to build out some cool things for you guys? And so as part of Polygon's AgLayer initiative, we're basically helping them to create the seamless experience for all of their CDK chains, which are going to be integrated into the AgLayer ecosystem. And so you come to one site and explore all the Polygon AgLayer networks that are available there, with which you can bridge, swap, lend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in this one consolidated packaged product. That's it. But I would love to show you something else too. If I could, give me 1 second. Okay. Well, the clicker ain't working, but I think one thing I didn't touch on here is there's a bunch of stack chains too. Optimism, Arbitrum, Polygon being another one. Basically, there's a bunch of these layer 2s that are then trying to leverage their own roll-up technologies and are building out their own ecosystems. And so if you're a person that's been using Optimism, Base, Mode, or some of these other stack chains within Optimism, again, it becomes increasingly fragmented. So the space is so fragmented such that you're a person that's only moving capital to this one chain to then use these core set of applications. The end goal is, can we aggregate all of these experiences and all of these available products, perhaps and present it to you as a user that this is the best opportunity for you to deposit your ETH or your Bitcoin or some of your assets and find this aggregated yield offering across all these different chains. And so ultimately, products like this are things that we are experimenting on. We have built out things for Chain as well, things for Optimism that are coming out, and things for Arbitrum. And a lot of things will be coming out next year with which we're going to essentially just be experimenting with this on-chain consumer experience. The DapDap product is still our core focus, but we're trying to leverage some of this tech that we built and white label it out to some of these other chains and kind of see what sticks, because ultimately no one knows what the real catalyst will be for this on-chain user experience, and no one's done it yet. So we're trying to pioneer this way. So yeah, thank you guys.